Hi, my name is Brenda Ness. I have been spending the last 5 years working on a book called Secrets Revealed at the Time of the End. This is book 1. I will be writing a second book. This is recording number 4. The first recording is Secrets Revealed at the Time of the End cover, and it is about the cover, the picture that you see in front of you now, and I read the back of the book, and I also tell you a little bit about my inspiration for writing the book. The second book is called Secrets Revealed at the Time of the End, Intro. And that book is, I read the entire introduction to the book, and I also cover the table of contents so that you know what is in the book. The third recording is, of course, Chapter 1, and this recording is Chapter 2. Secrets Revealed at the Time of the End 2. Chapter 2. 150 Days of Noah's Flood. Another reason the theory of a 360-day year calendar was developed and became popular is because of the worldwide flood of Noah's day described in Genesis chapter 6 through 9. Because the verses mention the flood lasting for 5 months and also for 150 days, many scholars concluded that the calendar at the time must have had months of exactly 30 days each, and also concluded that the 12 months of 30 days constituted the amount of time it took the earth to orbit around the sun. The Bible does not support the earth being taken out of its orbit around the sun, so there has to be another explanation. This chart demonstrates 2 ways to count the number of days between 2 events. I developed the chart to demonstrate how Noah's 150-day flood could have actually happened on the Hebrew calendar that Israel uses today. This is an actual section of the Hebrew calendar below, which shows the modern month names as I showed you earlier on the other charts, and it uses the length of each month for a complete year cycle, with 13 months, 385 days. See the table on page 14. Some Hebrew calendar months can vary in lengths of either 29 or 30 days, and the years vary in length of either 12 or 13 months, as shown in the previous chapter. Two ways to count the number of days between 2 dates. As you can see in row A here, non-inclusive, when we start counting if today is the 17th, we count the first day tomorrow, and the second day the day after that, and so forth. And when we get to the 17th of May, recall that April is a 30-day month. When we get to the 17th of May, that would be 30 days. However, if we began the count today instead of waiting till tomorrow, today, April 17th, would be the first day, and the 18th would be the second, and the 19th would be the third, and so forth. So you would actually gain an extra day because you're counting today instead of waiting till tomorrow. And that's called inclusive. Method A begins counting after the first day has ended. Method B counts the first day immediately. Now, by doing that, on this chart here, these are months from the Hebrew calendar: Heshvan, Kislev, Tevet, Shevat, Adar 1, and Adar 2. Because remember, I did say that it would be a 13-month year, complete year with 385 days. Now I'm just going to quick switch back to that chart so that I can show you what I'm talking about. Remember this chart from chapter 1. If you haven't watched chapter 1, you might want to go back and do that right now. So this table here is the months on the Hebrew calendar, and as you can see, Adar 1 is the 13th month that's added just before Adar 2. So when it's added in, Adar 1 would be the 12th month and Adar 2 would be the 13th month. Or in this case, it would move into month 6 and then month 7, because you can see they skipped counting here. And these are the varying lengths of the month. So we're talking about a complete year this time, which is this column here, with 385 days. So if you take the chart that I drew in chapter 2 and you compare it to this, you will be able to line it up on here as 30, 30, 29, 30, 30. All right, we're going to switch back to that page. There we go. See, here they are, 30, 30, 29, 30, 30. And the last one doesn't matter because we're stopping the count on the 17th. So in Heshvan, if we start counting on the 17th, we have 14 days left in this month. And in Kislev there are 30, Tevet 29, Shevat 30, Adar 1 30, Adar 2 17, for a total of 150 days. So as you can see, Noah's flood could have actually happened on the same type of calendar that Israel is using today. Of course, these are modern month names. They were different back then. In fact, they're not even, all the names aren't even given in the Bible. Okay, because each type of year can have 12 or 13 months, there are 6 different lengths a year can be. Again, like I showed you in the other chart, 353, 54, 55, 383, 384, or 385. Okay. Obviously, the Hillel version of the Hebrew calendar was not invented when the flood occurred. A very important fact to note, though, is that Hillel too used historical date information from Hebrew records. Then he applied the mathematical calculations to develop a system of predicting the dates of new moons far into the future. It has been in use for more than 1,600 years by the Jewish people, and it still remains pretty accurate, as you could see by examining the moon phase chart on page 23, which was in chapter 1. You can Google Jerusalem Post. The first date you see under the heading is from the Christian calendar, which has been designated as the standard universal calendar of the world, more commonly known as Gregorian. ISO 8601, I explain later. That is the standard. And the second date is from Hillel II's Hebrew calendar. So Israel is using Hillel's system today. The sighting of a sliver of a new moon in biblical days was to be the start of each month. In the spring, when a sliver of the new moon appears, they go to check the barley in the fields to see if it's ripe enough. If it is ripe, they begin a new year. If it is not ripe enough, that is when they decide to add that 13th month, called Adar 1. Then, as I explained before, Adar becomes Adar 2. This is how the calendar is adjusted so that the seasons do not become misaligned, and it also keeps Purim in the month preceding Passover. To see the importance of a new moon in the Bible, I use the free download Bible called eSword. I use it for all of my work because it has several versions to compare to each other. I got 85 results for new moon in their extended search. The King James Version is my favorite, and according to transliteration experts, it is about 98% accurate to the meaning of the original Hebrew, but sometimes it's not the easiest to understand. The eSword compare function helps us get a clear picture in a click. Here are just a few verses and versions so that you can see that the celebration of a new moon is written in God's Word, but not so that we worship the moon. Deuteronomy 4:19. Don't let yourselves be tempted to worship and serve what you see in the sky, the sun, the moon, the stars, or anything else. Numbers 29:6. Offer these in addition to the regular burnt offering for the first day of the month. Numbers 29:6. That was the Good News Bible. And this one is the Common English Version. These sacrifices will be made in addition to the regular daily sacrifices and the sacrifices for the first day of the month. So just a rewording of the same verse. And 1 Samuel 25, and David said unto Jonathan, Behold, tomorrow is the new moon, and I shall not fail to sit with the king at meat. From the King James Version. 1 Samuel 25, David answered, Tomorrow is the new moon festival, and I am supposed to eat dinner with your father. The Common English Version again. As you can see, it's a little bit easier to understand. Psalm 81, 3-4. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed on our solemn feast day, for this was a statute for Israel, and a law of the God of Jacob. From the King James Version again. And Psalms 81, 3-4 from the modern King James Version. Blow the ram's horn in the new moon, in the time appointed on our solemn feast day, for this was a precept for Israel, an ordinance of the God of Jacob. Okay, because Hillel II developed this calendar for us, we can calculate far into the future and possibly determine dates of the 7-year tribulation before it begins, instead of having to wait until it does. There are 14 prophetic numeric verses which contain particular amounts of time in relation to the 7-year tribulation. In a later chapter, I will describe them in detail. Think about it. Why would an awesome, amazing, brilliant, and merciful God waste his time putting such detailed information in his book if it is useless? If we are not able to use these verses ahead of time to prepare for the tribulation, they would therefore be useless. Not a single jot or tittle, the smallest letter or punctuation in the Bible is useless. Matthew 5:18. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. Jesus is telling us that every tiny little dot in his word is going to be useful for us. In order for the seasons to remain on a 1-year cycle and the year to be 360 days long, one of two things would have to happen. Either the Earth's orbit around the sun would have to speed up, or the Earth would need to move closer to the sun. That is the only way the orbit could be shortened. If you just shorten the year, like I showed you before, with neither of these changes, it would take only 18 years to be an entire season off. It would also refute what God tells us in Genesis, and I repeat this. Genesis 1:14, and God said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, for seasons, for days, and for years. Genesis 2:1, Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. So God was finished with creation. Because Hillel II used historical date records to create his formula, this layout could conceivably have been the same in Noah's day. There is no indication in Scripture that the earth was ever shifted into a completely different orbit or that the speed of the orbit was changed. This means there could never have been a perfect 360-day calendar, nor will there be before the millennial kingdom begins, if it would begin even then. Back to the flood. Even though God had caused it to rain for this monumental flood, it does not change what he says in Genesis 2:1. Remember, he knew the end in the beginning. He said he was finished with the heavens and the earth and all the host of them, meaning the entire universe was set in place until the end of time. The Bible shows us time is kept track of from creation until the millennial reign is finished. Revelation 10:6, and swear by him that liveth forever and ever, who created heaven and the things that are therein, and the earth and the things that are therein, and the sea, and the things which are therein, that there should be time no longer. How do we know this is after the millennium? The millennium itself is 1,000 years, a measurement of time. And Isaiah says our ages will still be a measurement of time during the millennium. We will still have physical bodies, but they will be healed and restored. Isaiah 65:20, no child will die in infancy. Everyone will live to a ripe old age. Anyone 100 years old will be considered young, and to die younger than that will be considered a curse. A fictitious 360-day per year theory was developed because someone had read the account of Noah's flood and assumed it had to mean that every month was 30 days long, 150 days divided by 5 months. But as I have demonstrated, a close examination of the Hebrew calendar shows that a complete year does fit the criteria for a flood without changing the length of a year. Furthermore, the development of this non-existent calendar allows a vague and simplistic interpretation of the 14 prophetic numeric verses. We are taught to think that we cannot understand when the end-time events will happen because we do not use the appropriate calendar. Doesn't that sound a bit confusing? I did an extended search in eSword on the word confusion. Every verse I read shows confusion as the result of sin. Our God is not a God of confusion. See 1 Corinthians 14:33 coming up on the top of the next page. It is very important that you understand that in reality, the amount of time it takes for the earth to make a complete orbit around the sun is 365.25 days. In order to correctly interpret these prophetic verses, which state particular numbers of days, months, and years. In addition, there is no biblical evidence whatsoever that God drastically changed the position of the earth, moon, sun, or anything else in our universe since He created it. If you will notice in the following verses, God makes a point of saying that the flood started on the 17th day of the month, the same day. I believe it means to start counting with that day, not the next day. And I'll scroll back to that difference when I read the verses. Genesis 7:11-13. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, the same day, were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened, and the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. In the self-same day entered Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons with them into the ark. So if you just saw the new movie Noah that came out, there was no stowaway on the ark. Believe God's word before you believe the fantasies of a movie producer. Genesis 8:3, and the waters returned from off the earth continually, and after the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated, and the ark rested in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat. So I'm going to quick scroll back up there quickly so we can look at that chart again. Here it is. I used the inclusive method because God said that the flood started on the same day. And you will see examples of this type of counting in other areas of the Bible. So again, I did start on the 17th and I ended on the 17th for a total of 150 days. Alrighty, now on to the next step. On the chart on page 25, I count out exactly 150 days like I just showed you. And if you believe as I do that God knew the end of all things in the beginning, then it's easy to understand that He would have set everything in place in the beginning to work out perfectly in the end. He is not a God of chaos and confusion. It is we humans who try to complicate things. Psalm 71:1, In Thee, O Lord, do I put my trust. Let me never be put to confusion. 1 Corinthians 14:33, For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all the churches of the saints. Confusion is for the disobedient. Isaiah 45:16, They shall be ashamed and also confused, all of them. They shall go to confusion together that are makers of idols. Note, I also want you to notice that there was a method of keeping track of time from the beginning of creation, even though a calendar is not explained in detail in the first chapters of the Bible. We do know that God Himself had counted out the days of the week during creation week in Genesis 1. From the genealogy in Genesis chapter 5, that they were keeping track of years. And here in chapter 7, references made to the 17th day of the second month, and in 8, the 17th day of the seventh month. It is quite obvious that God set up the universe to help us keep track of time until we no longer need to. He is the author and creator of all things, the one who began time and the one who will end time. It makes absolutely no sense at all that it would be a random, varying measurement. Science continually proves that the Bible is truth. And if you didn't notice up here when I was doing the Genesis reading, it says, Were all the fountains of the great deep broken up? And while I was writing this part of the book, I happened to come across an article that had just come out in the news from the BBC. So I'm going to show you that quickly. Mineral hints at bright blue rocks deep in the earth. This was March 12, 2014. Blue planet. Ringwoodite minerals reveal hints of what things might look like deep within the earth. Minerals preserved in diamond have revealed hints of the bright blue rocks that exist deep within the earth. They also provide the first direct evidence that there may be as much water trapped in those rocks as there is in all the oceans. The diamond from central west Brazil contains minerals that formed as deep as 600 kilometers down and that have significant amounts of water trapped within them. Researchers have published their findings in the journal Nature. The study suggests water may be stored deep in the interiors of many rocky planets. Diamonds brought to the Earth's surface in violent eruptions of deep volcanic rocks called kimberlites provide a tantalizing window into the deep Earth. A research team led by Professor Graham Pearson of the University of Alberta, Canada, studied a diamond from 100 million year old kimberlite found in Guiana, Brazil, as part of a wider project. I believe they are less than 6,000 years old myself, but I don't always agree with the scientists. They noticed that it contained a mineral, ringwoodite, that it is only thought to form between 410 kilometers and 660 kilometers beneath the surface of the Earth, showing just how deep some diamonds originate. Page 2 shows that there are buried oceans. While ringwoodite has previously been found in meteorites, this is the first time a terrestrial ringwoodite has been seen. But more extraordinarily, the researchers found the mineral contained about 1% water. While this sounds like very little, because ringwoodite makes up almost all of this immense portion of the deep earth, it adds up to a huge amount of deep water. Dr. Sally Gibsons from the University of Cambridge, who was not involved in the work, commented, "Finding water in such large concentrations is a hugely significant development in our understanding of the ultimate origin of water now present on the Earth's surface." And if you can see, they're showing that there is a lot of water underneath the surface of the Earth. Right here. Okay. And the observation is the first physical evidence that water can be stored in the deep interiors of planets and solves a 25-year-old controversy about whether the deep Earth is dry, wet or wet in patches. And I'll let you read that by pausing. And I'm going to go to the last page of the article. Describing his diamond sample, he said it looks like it's been to hell and back, which it has. Blue Planet, Professor Joseph Smith of the University of Colorado has spent many years studying ringwoodite and similar minerals synthesized in his laboratory. He said, "I think it's stunning. It implies that the interior may store several times the amount of water that is in the oceans. It tells us that the hydrogen is an essential ingredient in the earth and not added later from comets." And I will pause a second here, and you can read the rest of the article by pausing the video. Now I'm going to switch to my website and show you how to order a book. If you don't want to order one, that's fine. You can watch free videos on YouTube. I will be putting reading and teaching the entire book on YouTube videos. If you'd like to order a book, send a money order or cashier's check, no personal checks, for $25 for a printed copy of the book. It's 228 pages, 20 or more colored pages. That's why it's so expensive. $21.49 for the book, $3.51 for shipping and handling. Outside of the U.S., you must email me for shipping amount. You can email me through the website, and I will give you that website address. If you just want a PDF, it is $1.47, and you must send a cashier's check or money order to the same address as the printed copy request. Brenda Ness, P.O. Box 31205, El Paso, Texas 79931. If you don't want to run to a store to get a cashier's check or money order, you could just send $2 bills in an envelope. I do not recommend that you send 47 cents. It'll make the envelope way too much, and it also, the coins would slide around and knock holes in the envelope. You must include an address label or your name and complete address printed on an index card for the printed copy. I plan on using that card or the label to mail the book to you to try to save some time and not rewriting your address. So please print it neatly so that the U.S. mail can deliver it to you. If you have an apartment number, please make sure you put that on there. If you just want the PDF file, all I need is your email address on a piece of paper along with the $1.47. No personal checks, and please no refunds. Watch on YouTube to be sure you want the book before you place an order. Down at the bottom of this site, if you should lose track of where my YouTube site is, you can click on this little icon and go straight there. This is at the bottom of the home page on my site. Contact information is also available. And here is the address for my website so that you can get that information. My site is located at estherofisrael.wix.com/secrets revealed. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for Chapter 3. Have a good day.